She is the founder of Feminist Frequency, a website that hosts videos and commentary analyzing portrayals of women in popular culture. Rolling Stone called her pop culture's most valuable critic. Time magazine chose her for the Time 100 of 2015, Time's annual list of the 100 most influential people in the world. Also in 2015, Cosmopolitan chose her as one of the 50 most fascinating people on the internet. Best of all, she is also Gen Con's guest of honor. Please join me in welcoming Anita Sarkeesian.
Hello.
In his day job as head of games at Kickstarter, he has helped thousands of game creators, hopefully they're gamers too, game creators bring their work to life. By night, he works on bringing his own games to life, games such as Burning Wheel, fantasy role-playing game, Torchbearer, Mouse Guard, Free Market, and Inheritance. Today, he is interviewing an uncommon conversation with Anita Sarkeesian. Please join us in welcoming Luke Crane.
Is it time for us now?
Thank you, Peter.
Wow, thanks for that.
Yeah.
That's quite the introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. We're glad to be here. Thank you all for coming. You're the 100th most important person in the world?
Only that year.
Only that year.
Yeah.
That's still pretty good. Out of 7 billion people?
Trump and shit is on that list. So not that year. They've, gone downhill since I was on it, but it's not necessarily like good people. Although I'd say I was on one of the, wow, where did I go with that? I'm just gonna, this is an uncommon conversation.
This is uncommon, right?
I slowly realized that I needed to reel that in.
Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna let you run.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. I know you haven't maybe been to Gen Con before.
I haven't. This is my first time.
So we've been friends for a few years now, and when I had this opportunity, I thought, who would I want to introduce to Gen Con? And you're the first person that came to mind.
Aw,
yeah,
that's so sweet.
It's a unique place.
Yeah, and I just started playing D&D for the first time, and I love board games, and it's just not, I've never been in the community of that, so it's cool to be here and see what's going on.
Yeah. Let's get to know you a little bit, shall we? We know that you're super important, and that you currently run Feminist Frequency, and you produce a series of videos and podcasts through Feminist Frequency, offering media literacy and criticism. But how, did you study for that? Was that a plan? Did you say, when I grow up, I want to...
Wouldn't that be cool? If you're like, when I grow up, I want to be a media critic. I guess people could do that now. That didn't really exist when I was a kid. It was like, I'm the child of immigrants, so it was like, be a doctor or a lawyer. That was really your only options. And I did not do either of those things.
Still hope for you.
Yeah, my parents are still hoping I'm going to live that dream.
Does your mom call you and say, when are you going to go back to school?
Now they're really hung up on babies. I think they've given up on that. Now they just want babies.
Babies?
Yeah, let's not go there.
Okay.
Let's just not do that.
Yeah, moving on. So.
So I've been thinking about where did this come from? Because I have the origin story of how I started Feminist Frequency. I was fed up with graduate school. I thought that feminism and feminist theory was really alienating. And if it's for everybody, and if feminists want to transform the world, why is it trapped in these academic spaces and also in activist spaces that can be a little alienating in their culture and their in those kinds of communities as well? And so that's why Feminist Frequency started. I was like, how do we talk to people on a massive scale? How do we, get this out there? And I started making videos on YouTube back when that was just starting up. I started using pop culture because that was a way that you could talk to people that you don't really have any other connection with. And it worked. Like, it was just weird. Like, it worked. I had a lot of people who were like, don't name your thing, don't put feminist in the title.
Right.
Which is funny because I don't think anyone would say that today because feminism has changed and the perception of feminism and what it means. But back then, everyone was like, no one's going to watch your videos because it says feminist. And I was like, well, I'm going to show you, aren't I?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
all of
well,
that
you
is
certainly did.
Yeah, I kind of did. Right. It's true. But all of that is to say that, like, okay, but why even then? How did I become political? Where did all of that come from? And I was thinking about how when I was a kid, so I mentioned before that I am the child of immigrants, and, you know, they came to Canada, this general region, to have a better life for their children and their families. But they came from Iraq. So when the US went to war, the first Gulf War, the relationship that I had to that was very different than the relationship to my peers. I was at home watching my parents freaking out about what was going to happen to their family in terms of both the violence and bombing and war, and also the embargo and what that means for healthcare and access to medicine and those sorts of things. And I would watch them watch the news and be like, this isn't true. These stories don't match up with the stories that my parents told me growing up about back home and what that meant. And so while my peers were around just being like, yeah, go get them, we were like, oh my God, our family. And I think that was a really pivotal moment for me that I didn't realize until recently, because that taught me to be critical of the media.
Yeah.
Right? It taught me to question authority in constructive ways. It taught me that, like, what you learn from the news isn't always true. And I think that really, you know, like, you can stepping stone to where I am today and why I am how I am.
Right. But the world has gotten better, and news media is
so good.
Is great
So good.
now, and everything's true. Yeah. Facebook is perfect.
Isn't it awesome?
Yeah. Right. So you had a little moment as a kid, and everything moved on.
Yeah, it's fine now. Absolutely. Can't we just talk about fun things? Can't everything just be fun?
You brought up the Iraq War.
I did. That was on me. I have been told many times that I hate fun, so I'm just trying to really prove that point.
Me too.
Oh, really?
Oh my God.
Should we start a club?
Yes.
Can we make enamel pins?
Yes. I actually. Yeah. Yes.
That's what people do, right?
Fun is a 4-letter word. That's what we used to say
Oh, that's
at Burning Man
cute.
headquarters. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that.
I've also actually told people playing my games that they're not here to have fun.
Wow.
That's a
You hear
quote.
this? Man, I'm never playing games with you again.
No, don't play my games.
Fair.
But we'll get back to that. So then.
But not all games are supposed to be fun. And that's actually part of some of the issues in our community, is that some games are supposed to elicit different experiences and different emotions and different reactions. And not all gaming, whether video games, board games, whatever that mean, isn't always meant to, like, be fun.
This is correct.
And I think that that's a thing that people don't talk about enough.
It depends on what circles you walk in.
I mean, I walk in those circles. Like, I'm just saying. I don't hear these conversations enough. But yeah, I think that, yeah, okay. We can.
We want to talk about fun? We can talk about fun and what it means to have are you talking about serious games?
No, I just think that, like, so one of the things is when I would often get people, you know, there's some people who don't like what I do. Just a couple.
Yeah, this is just
and,
2. 50%.
And, you know, it's like, why are you here to ruin our fun? Why are you trying to take our entertainment away? And I think, you know, that is a thing, but also understand that, like, there's so many more games that are coming out that are like personal narratives. They're memoir style games, or, you know, even games that are really difficult, like really hard games,
right,
are not necessarily fun.
Right.
They might be satisfying,
yeah,
but they're not necessarily fun. And I think that our definition of gaming as, like, narrowly as fun is kind of problematic, in that, like, understanding that we have so many different emotions that can come with engaging in media. And that's really cool.
I agree. And I see that, like, fun used as shorthand for a good experience or a satisfying experience from a lot of people, a lot of my peers, you know, a lot of people, you know, in the games world. And it's something that I certainly question. And like games can entertain in a variety of ways. They can challenge, they can educate, and they often, like, the best games do kind of all at once.
Yeah, those are special.
Yeah. But I've heard that, like, making a good thing is hard. So
it's so hard.
Yeah.
It looks so easy sometimes, doesn't it? Like some of the stuff that I see that's like it looks like the smoothest and easiest is just took so much. It's just making shit's hard, man.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going with that. I just.
Do you want to talk about what you make right now and why it's hard?
Oh, I don't know. Do you want to talk? Do you want me to talk about that? Should we talk about that?
Yeah.
Which thing? I do too many things. Pick one.
I mean, we can start. But let's start with the beginning. Let's start with the videos then. So those are real easy to make. Yeah, like
So
you just
easy.
like get on camera and just riff.
I don't understand why it takes more than an hour to make an hour-long video.
What-
I see them all the time on the internet.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. Yeah, I think I think doing good creative work in general is very challenging, and doing things well and like having the resources to do them, or the time, or which is part of financial time, etc. And for us, like trying to unpack the status quo in a way that is accessible and engaging and interesting to an audience is really hard. It's actually like, it's not like it's easier to, it is absolutely not easier to write a PhD like dissertation, but it is extremely difficult to take. Okay, here, let's rewind for a moment. I think that it is easier to write a 20-page essay on a topic than it is to make a 5 to 8 minute video distilling those ideas down for an audience that is not accustomed to those ideas. Like that is part of the challenge. And so script writing is a huge part of our process, let alone the creative aspect of making the videos and animating them and figuring out how to illustrate them, like illustrate the points and all of that kind of stuff. Just being able to do that. And then trying to bring comedy into it as well. Like it's just, it is challenging. And I think that, it's rewarding and important and great work, and a lot more people are doing it now, which is awesome. But that is a challenge. When I used to teach at community college, I would make my students write 2 pages. They would have to write their ideas in 2 pages, and they all struggled with it because it's so much harder to distill your concepts down, right?
Yeah, and especially. Right, like that's a great point. Like, it's one thing to speak to someone who understands the subject. It's another thing to have to distill those ideas down to someone who doesn't speak the language, right? Who's not familiar with the tropes, as it were. So yeah, it is really challenging. And your videos are excellent, right? They're very digestible. They move very quickly. Obviously, very well researched, and like it seems like. You might have somebody maybe writing your jokes or something.
Well, I'm lucky now because I have like a staff and a team, and we work on the scripts together. I don't do as much of the writing anymore. So all those jokes are definitely not can't take credit for those because they're actually good. But yeah.
So how big's the team now for?
There's 3 of us full-time and a couple part-time sort of contractor, call them in when we need them kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, I wonder, can we talk about the other side of the frequency, like for a second? You're like,
side?
Yeah, the feminist side. So that's your lens for your criticism. You're not just doing general games or media criticism, right? You're attacking this from the feminist lens, and I wonder if you could, for us, distill down what that is, like what your perspective is, or your mission, or how you approach a game.
Sure.
Or just talk about feminism. Feminism.
Yeah, so I define myself as a media critic, but I'm very specifically a feminist media critic because when I look at a piece of media, I'm specifically looking at character and narrative first, and then I'm looking at structure and filmmaking and other sorts of like film criticism, like traditional film criticism stuff.
Right.
And that all comes from having a background in feminist film theory and different kinds of media criticism. So, I can look at a piece of media and say, why aren't there any people of color? Where are the women? What are the women doing? Oh, do the women seem empowered, but they're not, and try to explain why they're not? And I think what becomes more interesting is we're, as a culturally, becoming a little more literate in this arena. So we'll see more people acknowledge that the lack of people of color, the lack of women in a piece of media. And so now it's about fine tuning that and like going to the like 201 level, right? Where it's like, okay, well, there might be gender parity, but what are the women doing? Right. What roles do they have? Are they reinforcing what are they reinforcing? And look, here's the thing too, is that this has always been about, like, I'm a total geek. I love, not that I need to prove that, but like I'm, sometimes it feels like we do. So I pop culture has always been something I gravitated towards and liked, so it was a natural fit for me to go there. But really, at the end of the day, feminist frequency is not about games. It's not about pop culture. Right. It's about the fact that the media can transform, can help us transform the world, right? And so the media is oh my God, I've said this 5,000 times and apparently I can't say it today with dice carpet in front of us, which is great.
The media is.
The media is one of our socializing factors, and it can work to help us see who we are. It can reflect back to us who we are. It can help us understand other people better. It shapes our world. And we can see that there's a number of ways that you see the media actually having an impact on how we understand the world and how we understand each other. And so what is the media doing? And so that's what feminist frequency is all about. It's transforming and changing the media so that we have a better world. And that the media holds the values that we want to see.
So is there like, so in that very productive frame, all right, in that kind of wider cultural frame, is there any difference in technique when you are looking at a game as opposed to, say, when you're looking at Star Trek?
Yeah, because each medium has its own language. So one of the things that was really interesting about the Tropes Project is interesting / like hair-pullingly frustrating, is that there wasn't really a lexicon or language to talk about games from a feminist perspective. Right. We kind of had to create that. So we pulled as much as we could out of feminist film theory, but it stops at a certain point when you look at interactivity, because it's not the same as the relationship with a film as it is like playing and interacting with a game. And so, a specific example of this is we made a video about women as reward, the idea that women and women's bodies are used to reward the player for a job well done.
Your princess is in another castle.
Yeah, well, no, it's the kiss you get for saving the princess.
The kiss you get.
It's Samus being in a bikini if you play fast enough. It's the like nudie photos you can get in a game, like as collectibles. The like whatever. I'm like, let's go through all the horrific examples. They're all in the video that I made. That is very specific to video games. That is not a thing you get in the media. I mean, sorry, duh. There's not a thing you get in TV shows and movies because you're not being encouraged to do a thing to get a thing. Right? In this case, women are things, right? And so how do you talk about that? What does that mean? And we had to sit there and just be like, let's figure it out. We got to figure out what the impact is and what is that doing and how do we have this conversation and what are the new words we use to even address this, because it's not really being addressed in any kind of mainstream way.
And you solved it and everyone listened to you and
so good.
Yeah,
we're
great.
So set.
Yeah,
everything's perfect.
Yeah, things went really well.
Yeah.
So just shifting slightly, staying with games for a second. You mentioned that you're playing Dungeons and Dragons.
A really weird
what's
game
your character?
of Dungeons. So, okay, here's the thing.
Oh, that's always good.
One, I've only played 3 sessions because we call ourselves low frequency tabletop because it happens occasionally. And I don't know what normal is for Dungeons and Dragons. Just so like, I assume people play in some semi-regular intervals and they have the same people all the time. We have like whoever's in town. So there's lots of characters that may or may not be there, which is kind of cool. So I am a druid, but in my world, my DM is amazing, and he created a completely like sci-fi future world. So my druid, instead of talking to animals, for example, talks to technology. And so there's been a lot of shit, what does this spell actually do in this world? Like, we just kind of have to like riff on it as we're going
Some
to
interpretation
to figure out what the I don't know what things are. What are things? Spells. There's candids. Cantrips. Thank you. I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
But what's hilarious
You're really
is that
showing your nerd cred here.
I have no nerd cred when it comes to D&D at all. It's really fun, but it took me a long time to realize that 1 minute in game is like 5 days. Like, why are things happening faster? I don't understand. And then I am really interested in world building, so I often derail us with a lot of questions about people's psychology and why they're doing what they're doing.
Wait, the players or the
Everyone.
NPCs? Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
How's your dungeon master feel about that?
Like, loves me.
Loves you.
I think that there's more combat in the games that I'm not in, because I don't. That's the thing, is like I think I would like role-playing games more that weren't heavy in combat, and I'm told they exist, and maybe I can check some out while I'm here. But
yes.
So I feel like when I'm not playing with them, they do
just
more
murder
combat.
shit.
So, yeah.
They're just like, God, thank God the druid's not here.
Yeah.
What the fuck does a druid do with the internet anyway?
Exactly.
And they like murder the internet.
Yeah, they just slaughter the whole town, and then I come back and I'm like, what happened? And then I bring them all back. No, I don't.
Yeah, not yet. Someday you'll bring
Maybe.
them all back as like
they'll be like
light poles or
cyborg.
something.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun though. I really enjoy it, and I was like, I get how video games sort of evolved out of this, and I get why people are going back to this in some ways. Like
we never left.
I know, but I think that
Just saying.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I think that some
nodding.
people may have. I don't know. But I think that there is a sense of, if you play video games a lot, you're often playing them alone.
True.
And you might be playing them on multiplayer, like talking to people, and that definitely has a social aspect to it. But it's so different when you're in a room full of people and you're like building a universe together. Like, that is a completely different experience. And I'm like, where has this been my whole life?
It's fucking rad, right?
It's so cool. But y'all, the rules, just wow. I don't understand the math of it. Why is like plus 5 and then 16? I don't know.
What? You're really?
So I had to.
You roll a 20-sided die, you get a 16, you add 5.
No, but there's the. Shut up. What is math? Whatever. Anyways, I'm fascinated by it, and I think that it's such a cool experience that I'm glad I have with a really supportive group of people who are okay with the fact that I don't know what I'm doing and I ask a lot of questions.
Right. Yeah. So we played a game together.
Yeah, we
not
did.
too long ago, 6 months ago or so, I think. Right? It seems like it was a lifetime.
It seems like it was so long ago.
We played a LARP.
What's a LARP, Luke?
Yeah, a live action role-playing game together.
I was terrified.
You were really grumpy.
Okay. I showed up at this thing. My flight was delayed, flying across the country. It's 11 p.m. and I get a text from our mutual friend saying, we're going to play Luke's LARP in 30 minutes. And I was like, I don't act. I don't know how to do this. And he's like, just show up. And I was like, oh my God. So I come in and I asked 5,000 questions. And I'm like, I can't do this. It was awesome. It was so good. It didn't take too long, I think, for everyone to like settle into it. Anyways, do you want to tell them what it is?
It's a Viking funeral LARP.
Of course.
Danish families coming together at the death of the patriarch, and they're trying to
death
claim...
of patriarchy?
Death of a patriarch.
Damn.
Excuse me, yes. Death of the patriarchy, yes, of course.
Can we
wonder you liked
that
it.
game?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
Yeah, let's do that. Soon on Kickstarter, Death of Patriarchy.
Be the games you want to see.
Yeah.
The death of Peter, and you're trying to claim your inheritance. And I believe within an hour of starting the game, maybe an hour 15, you were trying to murder somebody.
Yeah. Because why did I want to murder him? I think because he killed my lover.
Yeah, he killed,
or my wannabe lover.
Yeah.
I was real lusting for this dude.
You're heartbroken.
Yeah.
In the past, that character's had been in love with this older man who had been murdered by his brother. and you decided that
And
night.
he wanted to marry me.
He did.
And I tried to kill him, so he killed me. What the hell happened?
It got pretty messy.
It
pretty
did,
fast.
but it's a thing too where, and this is like D&D, where it's like you got to learn the rules and the parameters, and if you don't know what they are, it feels really scary and intimidating. So it's like, can I do this? Can I, like? There's a lot of, wait, can I do this? Can I not do this? And like having a DM or having someone who can control the environment, who can give you enough information to make you feel confident and like let you express certain things and just roll with it, I think is really valuable for new folks coming into these spaces, because it can be really intimidating.
Yeah.
And I think you did a really good job of that, because there were a few of us that had never done a LARP before in that group, I think.
Yeah, that game's pretty good for new folks walking in the situation. It kind of guides you in, tricks you into being a Viking, talking like a Viking. But I didn't push you to do that. I didn't encourage you. I didn't prime you for it. You undertook that action, that course
I think
of action.
I went, can I try to murder him? And I think you went, yes.
But I enjoyed that very quick transformation that went from I can't do this, I'm just hungry and grumpy. Do I really? Can I not do this? Can I not play this game? And everyone was like, no, you can play this game. And then an hour later, you're like, I sneak into the barn and I pull out my knife and I slit his throat. And
That never happened. Did I try to slit his throat? I think I tried to stab him in the heart.
no, you're right.
I'm just saying, there's subtle differences there.
That's true. You try to stab in the heart. Much more poetic.
It is more poetic.
Yeah.
And a little less gruesome. A little less gruesome.
You're trying to kill a dude. Like,
You created the system that encouraged it.
Moving on. Do you want to outside of the tabletop games?
Is there an outside of tabletop games?
There is a. I heard
Not this weekend.
So you just started playing D&D.
Yeah.
You played your first LARP. This weekend we are all going to play D&D and LARP and whatever. But I am just curious if you do have any games that did inspire you that you did play, like not necessarily tabletop games or D&D, or it could be or backgammon or whatever, but like any video games. Like, were you big on the SNES?
The SNES?
The SNES?
So Carolyn, who works with me, hates it when I say that. So now I just have to say it on everything. Yeah, I grew up on the NES, and the SNES was definitely like the one I got super into, even though I didn't have that console. It was one of those things where it's like, hey, my neighbor has a video game console. I'm going to be best friends with them. Until I got a Game Boy, which took so much convincing. And then that was it for me. But I played games on and off throughout my like adolescence and early 20s, and then really came back to it again with the Wii. The Wii was the thing that got me back into it, because like the industry became so dominated, or it felt like it was so dominated by these like uber macho male fantasies, and the community was kind of toxic, and I was like, why would I want to be a part of this? So I think the Wii really helped show that games can be fun.
Why would you do that?
but that there are different kinds of games and different ways to engage with games and ways to do it collectively, and like, I know that we have some problems, but I think that it was transformational for a lot of people in coming out when it did and doing what it was trying to do, which took them years to figure out, but I think the Switch is amazing. So yeah. But board games.
Wait, no,
sorry,
hold on.
sorry.
I'm going to pause there.
Yeah.
You can't escape the Wii question.
Oh, the Wii
Did
question.
you break anything while playing Wii?
No.
No furniture, no.
Did you break
monitors? We came very close. There were some near misses there.
No,
yeah.
I'm pretty responsible.
Yeah.
You clear everything out of the way.
Clear. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Wii tennis.
So fun. I liked playing a Fruit Ninja on the Wii. I was really good at that.
Oh, yeah.
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 That's what it sounds like.
So
Sorry, sound people.
Anita Sarkeesian Fruit Ninja Pro.
I used to be, not anymore. I'm getting old. Those reflexes, not what they used to be.
Anyway, sorry, I had another question that I just left
Vanished.
my brain. Are you playing anything on the Switch?
No, I should be. I kind of busy, and
fair
suck at keeping up with things. I bring the Switch with me everywhere and just never play it. I often default to like Mario Kart when I'm like, oh, I want to play something real quick. I'll play Mario Kart or I was playing Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Help me. Tropical Freeze, thank you, which came out on Switch. I bought so many games twice because I just want it on the Switch too. It's really, that's becoming a problem.
So wait, did you play Mario Kart on the Wii? Did you like go back? Right.
I played on the Wii.
Yeah, and did you have the wheel controller?
No.
Oh, you just played with the? Wow.
Yeah.
Baller. So
I'm not gonna. That's just.
Oh, no way. That was the way to play.
No.
Yeah.
I don't like motion control that much. I try to avoid it when possible.
So you use the D-pad to play on the Wii? Isn't that defeating the purpose?
Did I do that? I don't remember. I mean, I definitely did the like thing, but I think I tried to. Oh no! I used the nunchuck thing. That's how you do it. I'm remembering now. Why are you shaking your head at me?
I don't know. I'm judging you.
It's fine.
So we had this
Join the club.
We had this whole thing with the Wii. We're playing in the house. We play 4-player Mario Kart races, and someone would fall in or fall off Rainbow Road or whatever, and immediately they'd be like, "This controller's broken."
Yes. Oh, it's always the controller, right? I have a funny. Well, is this a funny story? My neighbors. This was years ago. My neighbors had just moved in, and we invited them over to play Mario Kart. So we're playing, and one of them is so good, like just destroying us every round. We're like, what is going on? How are you this good? And she's like, oh, I just always won all the tournaments in my dorm. I was like, oh, you didn't think to tell us that before we started playing? She's sneaky.
Did you put money on anything?
No, and I'm glad we didn't. I would have lost a lot of money.
I love Mario Kart. Who do you race? Or do you remember who you race in Mario Kart?
I race Yoshi because I like Yoshi, but I feel like Toad is a better racer.
Interesting. Yeah, fair. Yeah.
I go in that direction and I use the bike.
Use the bike.
I'm a biker.
I would
in multiple ways.
I would do Baby Peach on with the tiny little cycle on.
How's that?
Wii.
Do you ever win?
Yeah, because it was the most. It was the most humiliating victory I could perpetrate on my roommates, as she's just like, and right, and my roommates are playing, Bowser or Wario or something, and I'm just like,
That's great.
Yeah, it worked really well. We're still friends.
Are you sure?
Yeah. So I wanted to come back to tabletop games, and so now you're here. You're at Gen Con. I assume you're not here for like Colts opening day or anything like that.
I learned that the Colts are a football team when I drove in and saw the stadium. I was like, I don't know what sport the Colts are, but now I do. So there you go.
Back in the day at Gen Con, the facilities used to be much closer together, and you would like walk down a hallway, and you just look, and you just see into the stadium, and you'd see them playing.
Oh,
yeah, and then there'd be streams of Colts fans just kind of walking past the cosplayers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was we would just sit back and watch. And just like, what? Anyway, so tabletop games. So I'm curious, right? So from your kind of professional, educated eye, is it possible to apply a critical lens similar to the one you applied to video games to tabletop games?
Yeah, why not? You can apply it to anything.
Help me, Sensei.
Yeah.
So for Dungeons and Dragons, for example, since you're playing it, like
sure. So I was in my friend's office, and he has a bunch of like older Dungeons and Dragons manuals, and I started looking at them, and I was like, what the fuck? This shit is so sexist. Like, I've gotten a lot of messages from folks who are like, please talk about tabletop, or how do we talk about like issues of sexism and racism and other forms of oppression within the tabletop communities, within the games themselves, and I think that it's a very real issue that exists in lots of different communities. This isn't something exclusively to like movies or video games. And I think it's important, like, who are the characters? What are they dressed like? What roles do they play? Like, there's a lot of that I think can be asked. And you know, like when I look at a board game manual, if the manual always refers to the player as he, I just cringe. Like the assumption that the player is always male, I think is that is a very easy fix in terms of changing gender pronouns in a manual, right? In a rule book. It's just frustrating that still becomes the dominant, and that's still, and not all games. Sorry.
I can't.
I did
Wow.
it. I not all gamed us.
Wow.
But I think that it's important to take a look at that and, you know, call it out and recognize it. And if you make games, be better about it and be more inclusive. And if you don't know how to do that, get help. Like, get folks who do that can help you make it better.
So why is that important? It's a softball. Come on, knock it out of the park.
It's just such okay. Why is it in the same way that I think all media is transformational? I think that tabletop also plays a role in informing us of why it was a softball. What is wrong with me right now? Can we edit this out? No, it's fine. This is how the sausage gets made, or however. Yeah.
There's a live studio audience here.
There is. Hello. Yeah. I mean, in the same way that all media it's the same answer as before, right? That all media is important to our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. And so if you spend all of your time in tabletop games and it's all about, or like, you know, role-playing games, and it's all these like big, brooding, beefy dudes and these like sexualized damsels that you have to rescue, that is going to inform your worldview about what these gender roles are and what they mean and who you want to emulate and power fantasies and all of that kind of stuff. It's the exact same thing as in video games and what I've been critiquing for years. And so I think it's important to do that work in gaming, in tabletop gaming, and try to create a more inclusive space. Because the other thing is that like the tabletop community is not going to become more inclusive until the games become more inclusive, because it's really alienating. And the same thing with video games that I've been saying for years is the same thing in tabletop, is that if you make your games more inclusive, you're going to bring more folks into this space who feel alienated by it. And those of us who've been around for a really long time are there despite that. We just grumble about it and have to put up with it and have to, you know, either suck it up because the people you're playing with don't want to hear it, or be the buzzkill killjoy feminist that's always complaining about stuff, right? And so I think that there's an opportunity to really transform tabletop gaming and what that can look like moving forward.
So it's interesting. I was talking to one of my friends about this similar issue just last week, and one of the things that we were reflecting on, like how we came up with these games and, you know, how we played them, and we were both very critical of this language and this context in these games. There's I don't know if you've ever read The Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin. The Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula Le Guin.
No, I haven't.
It's a classic fantasy story. It's a small novel. Lead character Ged is not white, and Ursula Le Guin has come out and said this explicitly. But he is constantly portrayed as being white, you know, in kind of fandom and whatnot. And like,
I was just having this conversation too about how like white audiences always read characters as white, whether the text says it or not, and then they get super pissed when a person of color is cast appropriately in a role. So you think The Hunger Games, and this just happened with something that I'm blanking on, but we do that, and I do that too sometimes. It's our biases coming through, and you have to catch yourself and recognize that, like, why are you visualizing this character as white?
Sure. So
Sorry to cut you off.
Absolutely, and it's definitely important to constantly check our biases. But I'm just saying that, you know, from an early age, we were critical of these tropes and curious and dismayed by you know, a lot of these things. And so you know, from my own standpoint, you know, like when I started making games, like I made a very conscious decision to limit how we portrayed people. One, you'll note that the covers of most of my games are graphic. They don't portray anyone. But also, we've just said that we are not going to sexualize anyone, in terms of the game. It's just not the kind of narrative that we wanted to do. But for people who are dismayed, who are personally saying like, oh, I wish it wasn't like this. Is there anything that you would recommend? Is there any tool or tactic or course that you would recommend for them to raise their voice or to start a discussion?
Raise your voice and start a discussion.
Where?
Twitter. It's the best place to do it.
Oh.
I think that there are different levels of engagement and different ways that you can participate in activism and doing this kind of work. And it can be having a conversation with your D&D clan. Is it a clan?
Group or party. Yeah.
Why not a clan?
A clan would be many groups or parties. So,
oh, that's right. I just don't know words.
Yeah.
This is being filmed too. It's great. Yeah, but with the people you play games with, you can call things out when you see them, and start a discussion around it. You can, lots of people watch my videos together and debate them or talk about them and use them as a point of reference for engagement, talking to your kids about it. If you're an educator, bringing this stuff in classrooms, writing your favorite creators and being like, hey, really love your game. I wish in future iterations you would use gender neutral pronouns, or maybe don't sexualize your female characters. They might not be receptive, but why not try? Be nice about it. Or not, whatever. I'm not gonna tone police you.
Wait,
but
you're saying don't be nice on the internet?
I'm not saying anything right now because I'm just gonna just keep digging myself a hole here.
Was this a good idea? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll see. So yeah, there's lots of ways to do it, and I think speaking up is important, and when you feel safe, and figuring out how to do it and how to pick and choose your battles, right? I think that for a lot of folks, when you first get into recognizing issues of privilege and oppression, you start to see it everywhere. And when you start to see it everywhere, you want to call it out all the time. It's 100% what I did. I just got a message today about someone who was like, when they realized that they had a debate over Feminist Frequency's work with friends of theirs, and they realized that was it was actually a huge political rift. It wasn't just we didn't like a video. It was we are not aligned at all politically, and that they're no longer friends with that person and or those people. And I was like, yeah, we've all lost friends in this process. So that was not where I meant to take that, but that's what came out of my mouth, which is, I think, an important thing, and to recognize that picking and choosing your battles, you'll learn how to do that. You'll learn how to feel it out, and sometimes you will make the wrong choices and piss some people off, and sometimes you'll make the right choices and piss some people off, and that's okay. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
You might just be humoring me, but I appreciate that.
No, I've lost friends over gaming, so why not lose friends over feminism?
That's great. That's perfect.
I've also made lots of friends, many, many more friends.
Yeah, you build a new community of folks who are aligned and who have the same values, and maybe you start your own groups of thing, like gaming groups, or what I'm using gaming because this is where we're here, but your own sort of communities together that can do different kinds of work. And yeah, there's lots of creative ways of doing it.
Yeah, very cool. So I think we're going to take some questions. I think that's the next step.
Let's take some questions.
In this fabulous process. Is that right?
Can we take some uncommon questions for the uncommon conversation?
Are there any uncommon questions up there, Peter?
Yes.
Well, we could vote on the commonality matrix, but let's just dive into it here. Okay, so are there problems? Problematic. Are there problematic cultural areas that you see within the board game, role-playing game community distinct from other geek communities or fandoms?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. So I'm not as intimately connected to board game communities as I was with video game communities, but I would venture to guess that the problems are kind of the same. We're talking about sort of fandom in general, and that can encompass a lot of different communities for sure, like comic books and film and television and stuff. And I think the piece that sometimes gets missed here is that the roots of a lot of the tension it doesn't start in fandom. It comes from misogyny. It comes from white supremacy. It comes from ableism, right? It comes from these things, these social systems that we are indoctrinated into that inform how we behave and how we interact in the world. And those like games are made by people who grew up in these systems with us. And they're being played by people who grew up in these systems with us. And so I think that, you know, there might be some uniqueness in various different communities, but overall it's the same kind of the root causes are the same. And that is partially why the backlash seems very similar that is happening right now across the board in all fandom, from a group of extremely angry, extremely loud folks who, mostly men, who feel deeply entitled to things being the way they are and maintaining the grip of power that they have in terms of this sense of domination. And we're seeing that in politics as well, right? This is across the board. And so I think we kind of need to work on all of this together, that it's not just these siloed pockets, that like what is happening is all a part of our cultural ether.
I agree.
Thanks.
Any other uncommon
yes.
questions?
So how or where do you have the strength to continue the fight, given how you've been so
I don't,
ruthlessly?
man. I'm so tired. Can I just pass this on? Yeah, I think that I'm not joking. I am really tired. Like this has been a year of reflection for me in terms of the sheer exhaustion of the weight of over 6 years of daily harassment. And it's increasingly difficult to want to be a spokesperson for it, right? Like, you know, I get asked to talk about online harassment at schools a lot and conferences, and I've gotten really annoyed at the fact that I'm being asked to re-traumatize myself again and again, and that as the targets and the victims of these things, it's our job to educate folks to try to create change, right? There's all kinds of problems that are happening. So I was so frustrated with it, but obviously this is part of my work now, and I can't afford to turn down speaking engagements. So I wrote a talk that literally says I'm tired of talking about online harassment, to explain the emotional tax and the emotional cost on those of us who are being forced to do this all the time. I think a lot of people get the sense that it doesn't affect me because I don't talk a lot about how it affects me. I just don't. Like I'm not on Twitter every day talking about my trauma, but it is absolutely trauma. And I talk about it with friends, and I talk about it with colleagues, and I talk about fucking everyone in my vicinity. But at the end of the day, while I'm trying to figure out how to transform my activism into a place that's healthy for me while I can still continue doing it, I still have to continue doing it because it's still a problem. I'm still getting calls at all hours from friends whose friends are being attacked and they don't know what to do, right? That like, you know, today there was a thing that happened to a friend that is absolutely horrifying on a massive national scale. And it's nonstop. And so I'm not gonna quit, but I do have to figure out how to take care of myself in the process of doing it, if that makes sense. And so what I will say is that having networks that you trust, having friends and colleagues that validate your experience, that are there for you, that can provide to you what you need in those moments is really important to being able to maintain like a level head. I don't really like that term in this context, but that's really incredibly valuable, I think.
So the first time we met in person was backstage at XOXO, where you you were
I don't
speaking.
remember this. I'm so bad.
That's okay. I do. And so, and you know, I was just like, I came in and said hello, introduced myself, and you know, I saw your talk. And your talk was very powerful, and you talked about the harassment that
Was
year.
that the 2014 one, like during
Yeah.
Gamergate? Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
a bad day.
That was
Some dude came around handing out flyers and shit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I tweeted about being excited to meet you and see your talk and whatnot. And I was harassed for it. I got, my phone blew up. I phone calls from strangers saying, you know, we have to talk. And then I got pizzaed, right?
Did they give you extra sausage?
That's
what they
some
do.
kind of like inedible
it?
garbage.
Extra
You know, apparently like I think 2 or 3 deliveries sent to the house like that day, just for tweeting and being a bit naive and thinking that my information, my online public information was safe. And I you know, I remember talking to you about this and kind of asking you a similar question about like, this like that, because that was a tiny little slice, and seeing that talk and knowing what you go through, knowing what your kind of day to day is, you know, I sense that there was perhaps something more, or that you were ready to murder everybody. And I remember what you said to me, and I said like, how, you know, essentially the same thing. How do you do this? And then you just turned to me and you said, "Fuck them." Fuck them.
I'm so cool.
I am not
I don't
gonna
remember this at all.
I'm not going to quit because of them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I just
And
wanna,
that weekend, actually, right before that, was the only time I've ever been like, I'm done. Like, I was on the verge of just giving everything up because it got so bad. And then I was like, no, they don't get to drive me away. They don't get to win this. And that's part of it too, is I'm just stubborn as fuck. But the reason I said all that stuff was because I think it's really important to preface that, like, the emotional costs, like, do not discredit the emotional costs that this takes on people. And like, for me, it's not about giving up or not giving up. It's about figuring out what I need to do to maintain my sense of self and worth, while also, at the end of the day, I'm an activist, and the shit's got to change.
well,
So fuck them.
fuck them. And yes,
Yeah, and super relevant to being here, because there's a lot of people who didn't want me here.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here.
Thanks. I'm
And-
glad to be here too.
Yeah, and thank you so much for talking to me for this chat, and thank you so much for not giving up.
Yeah.
I am very glad you're still in the fight.
Thank you.
So thanks, Anita.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I agree with everything Luke said. So please don't give up.
I'm going to be super obnoxious, and I have a book coming out on October 2nd called History versus Women. Oh, you've got them. Well, never mind then. There you go. I'm done. Oh, it's still roll. That was just for this audience. Cool.
Thanks, y'all.
I ruined everything.
No, it's perfect. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.